And um, well, good morning to everyone, and good afternoon here on the East Coast. Good morning to those on the West Coast, and good evening to those who are joining us here from London. My name is Sherrell Dorsey. I am the contributing editor for Impact Alpha, and this is Plugged In, our monthly series where we speak to investors and GPs, particularly in the space of climate as well as equity. So today we're in for a treat. We have joining us Rae'Mah Henderson from Techstars, the Energy Accelerator in Birmingham, Alabama. Welcome to the conversation, Rae'Mah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. And thank you for everyone who is joining us. And looks like folks are starting to trickle in. Really excited to have you all. When you get a chance, definitely use the chat to shout out where you are calling in from and also what organization that you represent so that we can see who is represented here into the room. And for those of you who are part of the Impact Alpha community, maybe you're getting our briefings, but you haven't just yet become a subscribing member. Be sure to head on over to impactalpha.com and become a subscribing member. I think we also have a special sign up code. And so I think my team here at Impact Alpha will drop some of that into the chat here. So excited to drop into this conversation. Raymond, we know that the world looks very different. Right. I believe you've been at Techstars for a few years. So we're going to dive a bit into your story. And part of the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you, we've had the last few months, we've had conversations with investors who are looking at climate technologies and very broadly really addressing some of the challenges across the board when it comes to climate mitigation, advancing new green energy opportunities, and really looking at solutions to some of the challenges that we have. But I wanted to speak to you primarily because Techstars has one of the largest global brands, particularly in the area of acceleration, and also has several accelerators that are hyper focused on sustainability. What's unique about the accelerator that you represent is you all are based in Birmingham, Alabama,
Mhm.
and you all are an energy accelerator. And for the last few years, you all have been pushing and championing startups that are solving for greater, more efficient energies, green technologies, and what have you. So I wanted to make sure that we got a viewpoint from the lens of an accelerator. So let's actually start with your role at Techstars and what has just blown you away in the city of Birmingham as you've been working with these different companies.
Yeah, I would say that, when I first joined the team, first of all, I knew nothing about energy tech, and I was like, "You guys want to hire me? Are you sure?" And also didn't think about Birmingham, Alabama as like a capital for climate, like as a hub, to be investing and then pulling these founders into this new city. And so one of the most surprising things is to see like how an ecosystem like ours, instead of like other larger cities, more attractive cities. We used to have an accelerator in Paris that was about sustainability. That was the one we constantly would fight for applicants for because they had the sexier town. But what we had here in Birmingham was the fact that people have a really good understanding that a rising tide lifts all boats. So there's not a lot of that gatekeeping politics as far as in like when people see you here, there's so much excitement. I think there's a lot of excitement to see that there's founders coming from all over the world, from Mexico, Colombia, Spain, Germany, India, just to partake in what we have here in Birmingham. And I think it's a magical experience for not only the ecosystem, but I think in turn is I don't think founders thought that they could be loved on in a city like Birmingham as much as we do.
Yeah, I love that you referenced, the Paris Accelerator, which, as you mentioned, the kind of sexier cities, right? And I think Birmingham, as a smaller market, has really been punching above its weight class, especially when we think of various conferences and summits that have been happening, and other accelerators that are present within the community as well. You're about a 2 hour drive to Atlanta, and there just seems to be a robust community that's been built in the startup space, as well as like key partners. So I know that Techstars in the past has worked with larger utility companies like Georgia Power, which kind of makes sense in terms of alignment of them investing in solutions around the energy space and sector. But I want to know that you've had this like front row seat to early stage energy startups for the last few years. What trends are you seeing that are beginning to emerge across the energy innovation landscape at large?
Ooh. You know, I'd say across the sector at large, I think, when we first I looked at our portfolio over the couple of years, and it had been running for, a couple years before I joined the team, and most of them was in the lanes that you kinda expect. Like, we had some companies that, focused on wind. One of our portfolio companies who are fantastic, their name is Accelerate Wind, and, like, the key things that you think about when you think about clean energy, wind, solar, all of alike. But I would say, like, in recent years now, it's been, like, a focus on, like, okay, energy distribution. I think also, like, advanced manufacturing. How do we advance? How do we use energy tech and clean solutions for like the main draws on our like grid? Are these producers like supporting them? And so I think that's been like the most interesting, that I would say coming about, and then also just, like, the electrical vehicle space. Like, we had, like, I wanna say 2 years ago, maybe 3 companies that were all focused just solely on the EV market, and so I think, outside of the traditional, I think energy distribution, we've had a lot with microgrids come about, and then now, like, the use of AI in supporting the energy transition.
Absolutely. And I think there's also some interesting ways in which founders are also looking at materials and like how do we turn materials into energy producers, right? Like there seems to be a very like multifaceted approach to how do we address energy. I'm curious about once founders have left the Techstars program or just kind of in general, right? We think about like Techstars being this big kind of mighty launch pad for a lot of these companies, right? So I'm curious about how founders then kind of find their way along the spectrum post accelerator, right? The climate space, the green tech space, there's a lot of like hard tech solutions. I think the AI aspect is probably only going to increase when we think about accelerating energy solutions and other kind of sustainability focused initiatives. But I'm curious about, how does that spectrum continue? Because it can be a really tough space for climate tech startups to get, adequate funding or follow on capital or things like that. So curious if you have any success
Yeah.
stories or conversations that you've had with founders, especially that maybe join like the alumni cohorts that you can kind of speak to.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting. I feel like most of our startups can pitch themselves in on a multitude of ways. They can pitch their solution without even considering like the energy tech aspect, but most of them do use that as their positioning. But one thing I found to be very interesting is they've used a lot of government resources. Like I've seen a lot of founders utilizing matching programs, especially particularly with grants. I have one portfolio company in particular that kicks butt. Like I want to say they'll go and raise maybe $1 million, and then they'll find a 1.5 matching program that is fully non-dilutive in order to to compound on that funding. And so I think that's been like the most interesting thing is actually using those government subsidies, working with the Department of Energy, the Department of Agriculture, whichever ones align, and actually using those contracts to then drive us, whether it's a government contract or actually just a government grant to drive them forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that that's changing pretty drastically as we see some new policies shape up. So, hopefully, both from the philanthropic space, and then also, I think we also have some investors here from different global capital firms who are also stepping in to deploy more capital and patient capital at that. So, I just wanted to turn to the chat really quickly. It looks very active. Thanks again, folks, for dropping in who you are, where you are calling in from, and also which firms you represent. This conversation is recorded. So if you are just joining us, you will definitely get the replay. And if you do have to jump off a little bit early, you will get the replay. So you won't miss out. You won't miss out too much here on our discussion today. So and again, for those who are part of the Impact Alpha community, but you have not yet become a subscriber, run quickly, run fast. We will toss in a link directly for you to sign up to become a subscriber. It looks like Isaac has dropped it in. We'll add it in again. But we would love for you all to join us also because there's just so much data and opportunity to be shared in this space that Impact Alpha stays on top of. You're not going to find the kind of reporting on what's happening in the impact investing space at this level of detail anywhere else. So just make sure you jump on that before we end our conversation today. So, Rae'Mah, back to Birmingham.
Mhm.
I've just started coming to Birmingham just in the last few years, and really at the behest of this kind of growing technology ecosystem and the various incubators and programs that the city has. And so, can you maybe speak to how Techstars Birmingham is uniquely positioned to accelerate clean energy startups? Um,
Yeah.
Again, Birmingham isn't always seen as a tech hub, and I think lots of smaller cities are doing what they can in the innovation space to be a launching pad for some of these places and spaces. But maybe you can speak to Birmingham to Techstars Birmingham specifically, being an accelerant in this space.
Yeah. I would say that it's beautiful to be in a community that really wants you here, and I feel like the impact that we've been able to make has really been by the support of Alabama Power, who is one of our largest corporates here and also is one of the largest supporters in this ecosystem. And so I would say that like a lot of our success has been able to be a corporate program, not only giving you access to potentially having a pilot with a large corporate like Alabama Power, who is a subsidiary of Southern Company, but really like giving them the game and giving them the full play by play on how to run the exact same blueprint with other innovation departments at other large
Mhm.
corporates. And I think that training has probably been the most pivotal. And I
Mhm.
also would say that it's so interesting. Many of the founders come here and they're like, "Where's the dirt roads?" I drove here from New York. I never once came across a dirt road. But I think also like because our city is so small and still so genuine, like there's a lot of legacy businesses that are also willing to open their doors to try some of these new technologies. And the interesting thing is most of these people that you need to get in contact with are already in your network, or maybe less than 1 degree away. And so I think that's really been like our superpower is we've really over indexed on community and utilizing it extremely in order to get those doors opened, whether it be from clients or just feedback as to if you are a large manufacturer, would you use this product? And if not, why? So honest feedback that normally would take a long time for other ecosystems to provide.
Yeah, absolutely. And just quickly, for those of you that are here in the room with us and you have a question for Rama, please feel free to either drop it into the chat. We'll try to get to it before we end our call today, or the Q&A button, which is right at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. So in a few minutes, we will definitely go to Q&A so that you can get your questions answered while we have Rama here. So one of the things that I'm actually interested in is Techstars is a very competitive application process. I imagine you all get thousands of applications for your accelerators worldwide. But what really makes a successful applicant for the Birmingham Energy Accelerator? It looks like we've got some agri-tech businesses and some founders here in the room. And so just curious about how do
Yeah.
you stand out? It's so competitive. Again, the climate tech space is really, really hard. And so how do you all identify, who has the highest potential to be winners?
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting, to work at a place that's so extremely selective. You really want to be able to take the time and really create like a very valuable application process. So if you know that, you talk to all these hundreds of people, but at the end of the day, you can only select 6 to 12. I think our main goal has been like building as much rapport that we can throughout our
Mhm.
application process, and that happens when founders apply early enough. So our application cycle, I want to say this year, it was just under 3 months. And so the ones that apply on like day one, you're like, oh my gosh, a new application. And then being able to speak with them, and not only just like that one time, but having follow up conversations. And like I said, many of these founders don't ultimately make it through, but in a sense, they've after the end of our 3-month application cycle, we've been having like sometimes weekly calls. Our managing directors are providing feedback. We are taking their solution and pitching it in front of Alabama Power to get their thoughts, and then providing that feedback to to that company to let them know like this is this if you could hit this benchmark, then this will actually make you a very strong applicant. And so I'd say there's a beauty in like kind of being first to the line, because while some of the best applications come in at the last minute, unfortunately, those aren't usually the founders that we're ever able to talk to. So for anyone who's thinking about applying to an accelerator, don't be ashamed in putting that timer on and getting your application in early and starting to have those conversations. And I
Mhm.
think also asking for homework. What can I do extra? What's something that you'd like to hear from me in the future? I think it's incredible to have that time to also receive updates. When you talk to a founder, you're like, well, if you had a little bit more traction, and then seeing them hustle and go out and get it, and then bring back those updates to say, hey, I had that conversation with you. You gave me this feedback. I was able to utilize it. And now I have like 2, 3 LOIs. If I get 2 more, would you be willing to have a conversation about seriously considering me for your program? And that's the most magical experience, because now that's what feels like impact outside of like our direct accelerator, is like hosting a very valuable application process where everyone gets something from it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's really solid advice. And especially, I think, again, in this climate where we are seeing some changes, some shifts, particularly in funding and Techstars, you all do provide initial capital as well. Can
Mhm.
you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm actually very excited to talk about it because we've added even more money. Our normal deal was $120,000, up to $120,000 of capital. And that Techstars deal was, 6%. Techstars in itself is used to be 6%. It's no longer that, but used to be 6%. And then there was an additional convertible note for 100K that you could also have access to. And so normally, founders last year and prior years would walked away with 6 to 9%. Techstars having 6 to 9% equity, from anywhere to 20 to $120,000 worth of capital. We've now doubled that to a $220,000, awful close to doubling, but $220,000 is what this year's founders will receive, not just at my accelerator, but all the Techstars accelerators. And if you are interested
Wow.
in terms, they're on our website. They're incredibly more founder friendly as well too. It's 5% on an uncapped note. And so like the main mission that I feel like we're going after is being better for founders. Like, how do we actually, make sure that we're investing in you in a way that also is thinking about your future, and taking your future into consideration, making sure that you're continue to be venture scalable even when we're on your cap table.
That's amazing. So the investment is doubled. Looks like the equity aspect has also decreased to an extent. And this is across all
Mhm.
accelerators that Techstars is running right now.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to take a look at that application and send that out to a few founders in my network. That sounds amazing. All right, I want to go ahead and get to others' questions so that before we before we run out of time here. So Chris Thompson asks, can you speak to any projects or investment opportunities specific to the Alabama region that you are seeing?
Mm, yeah, I would say we have a really amazing, I don't know if it's a program, it's out. I don't know exactly what to call it, but it's an organization called Innovate Alabama, and they have been incredible at bringing in, just a lot of money to this space for, and like for actually creating opportunities for founders. And so I'd say like definitely look at the programs that we have within our region with Generator. We do not operate as competitors in this market. Also I would say this is just a shameless plug. We will be hosting a Founder Fest at the end of this year in December, where Generator, Innovate Alabama, and a lot of the different economic development partners around the state will be in attendance, along with our founder community. But I'd say, like, we have really great economic development partners. Actually, um, if you are a founder, specifically in the Alabama region, we have someone who's a new person. His name is Jackson Pruitt. I hope he doesn't mind me shouting him out, but he's the new director of technology business attraction for the state of Alabama in entirety. So looking at our small and large ecosystems, discovering what their needs are, and then almost like being able to play matchmaker and help us keep and sustain, and also just retain the talent that we bring into the state. And so I'd say definitely look at resources like the EDPA, the Economic Development Partnership of Alabama. Incredibly helpful with navigating all of the opportunities. I can't list all of them off the top of my head, but if there's a resource that has all of them in one single place, it definitely would be with them. And check out a young gentleman named Jackson Pruitt. He's new, but he's phenomenal.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris, for the question. Charles Higginbotham, I do hope I'm not butchering your name, asked, just in case he missed it, is there a geographic restriction for participants?
We do have some compliance things, like, of course, we cannot invest in any companies where like the US has like sanctions on or anything like that. It is on our website, but you'll notice that we invest in like a large range geographically, almost every corner of the earth except for a select few. So um I would assume that you probably make the cut.
All righty. And then Christopher Wilson from Verdant Global Inc. in New York asks, what critical infrastructure projects at scale do you see in the deal flow? I'm going to assume the applicant flow or applicant pipeline.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'd say it differs year by year. For critical infrastructure projects at scale, I don't want to say I've seen necessarily a ton. I am new to that space, so I don't want to speak incorrectly, but it's interesting that it seems like every year there our applications seem to have some type of a trend. Like I said, in former years, that trend was electric vehicles, and we made multiple bets in that sector. Another year, it tended to be microgrids, solar panel recycling, solar. And energy distribution. And so I would say if you have a really cool critical infrastructure project, definitely just go ahead and apply. I'd love to talk to you and hear more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like Matthew Jha here, Managing Director of your Accelerator,
Yeah, he's in
also.
here in the chat.
Yes, yes. He also mentioned grid scale storage devices is one that you all are starting to see as well. And it looks like Alabama Power has recently invested in one, so that's really amazing to know. Rae'Mah, first of all, I just want to thank you for highlighting and kind of lifting up what's happening in Birmingham in that region overall. I know there's been a lot of effort across the state around advancing climate focused startups, which we of course need more of. I would love for you to let us know where or how is the best way for people to connect with you, especially if they're interested in the accelerator opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm around on LinkedIn. Actually, Matthew J, who's in the comments as we speak, who's my little cheat sheet. He's kind of helping me out with some of these questions here. Also, definitely follow him on LinkedIn as well. I think if you would love to learn more about my accelerator or any Techstars accelerator, like even if you feel like I don't know if if I'm ready for an accelerator,
Hmm.
I don't know if I'm the right candidate for one, just please go ahead and apply. It's nothing like getting that conversation started. And so many people that have come through our accelerator actually did not think we'd like give them like a second look and happen to be perfect fits. I think for us, like a part of our thesis is being, founder first and investing in people rather than always their idea. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And how long again does the accelerator program actually run? Because your founders are also moving to Birmingham to participate as well,
yeah.
right? So you do have to make a move, even if it's temporary, to Birmingham. So what does that time commitment look like?
Yeah, my program runs from September to December. However, most of the programs here at Techstars either run in the spring or the fall. So they're either a March to June program or a September to December program. You do have a little bit of like travel stipend to support that move. That's where that 220,000, most likely that 20,000 is normally like your travel stipend that you have to be in the city. And we happen to be one of the rare few that actually run in person. There are a lot of hybrid and fully remote programs. But yeah, Birmingham is definitely an awesome place to be. I know sometimes founders apply and don't always know that we run in person, but if this is something that sounds in alignment with you, we'd love to hear from you.
Amazing, amazing. Rae'Mah, thank you so much for joining us for this for the plugged in here at Impact Alpha. And again, as Rae'Mah mentioned, she's successful on LinkedIn. You can also tap in with Matthew J as well, who's also on LinkedIn to learn more about both the Birmingham Accelerator at large, and also if you are interested in applying. For those of you who do have startups, looks like there are quite a few of you who are working on incredible initiatives. Christopher Wilson, looks like you're working on a 400-acre data agriculture and energy farm, which sounds absolutely
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Joe James, it looks like you are working on a process to help utilities put their underutilized land to work and capture CO2. So definitely encourage you all to check out the resources that Rae'Mah has mentioned. And again, if you are already part of the Impact Alpha community, which I assume you all are, who have joined this conversation, again, take that one step further and be sure to become a longtime invested subscriber into the work that we do and the incredible journalists that are covering impact investing and all of these incredible climate projects from around the world. Our coverage is on a global scale. And so you don't want to miss that. You want to get access to a lot of our exclusive content, member calls that happen, I believe, once per month, as well as our Agents of Impact call as well, and some of our reporting. And our incredible producer, who thank you, who always sets us up for success, Isaac Silk, has dropped in today again a link to subscribe to become an invested member of the Impact Alpha community. So we really appreciate you all. Again, the recording and the replay will go out shortly. I believe probably sometime tomorrow. So if you had to leave us early or you've joined us just a little bit late, you will not miss out on the information here today or this wonderful conversation with Rae'Mah. Again, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Have an incredible day. Catch us for next month as well. And Rae'Mah, again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.